Welcome, everybody, to the Channel Vision Magazine webinar featuring Marquee, which is going to share with you how to really meet your customers' growing collaboration needs. I'm your host, Bruce Christian, Senior Editor of Channel Vision Magazine. Our guests are Marquee's CEO, Craig Doig, and Senior Vice President of Strategic Alliances, Greg Plum. As a special offer for attending today's webinar, be sure to stay for the entire presentation for information on getting your own personalized Marquee account and how to take the next steps in helping your customers with their collaboration needs. Now, this is a $240 value for the annual license offered exclusively to our audience today. So with that, let me turn it over to Craig and Greg.
Thanks, Bruce. Well, welcome everybody. I am super excited to be here. It is not by accident that we are presenting this on Tuesday, 2/22/22 at 2 p.m. Eastern. We've been playing this one for a while and really excited to bring to the channel what I'm viewing as something that's quite different, I'm not going to go so as far as to call it disruptive, but it is a fit at a time, a product fit at a time when the need for collaboration has never been greater in our post-COVID era. I'm calling it post-COVID, not in COVID. Craig, why don't we flip over the first slide? A little bit about Marquee, and I'm going to let Craig talk in a second here to talk about the history of Marquee. But for me, the channel, this is homecoming. This is where I've kind of grown up. I've spent a couple of decades here and always looking for something to bring the channel that was not a Me Too type product, something that was different that maybe filled a gap that might have existed previously. And I feel we have that with Marquee. It's if you've used Slack or you've used Discord or at least heard of these tools, I mean, Discord is one that kind of grew out of the gaming world. And then everybody knows Zoom, everybody knows Teams, all these services are out there. But what we wanted to do is try to create something that had some very basic pillars of simplicity, security, and the security also privacy. So your data is protected and you don't have to worry about who's watching what you're doing. And brandable, highly brandable. And we wanted to take that to the non-enterprise market. We wanted to bring that downstream. We wanted to get it to the SMB space that might be, historically ignored by some of the more robust collaboration tools. This tool allows you to host video meetings, have your chats, share your files. So you might today be using different technologies to do these. You can now do that in one technology, browser-based, brandable, private, and easily accessible. So with that, Craig, next slide here. I think what's most important and fascinating to me, as I said, I've been in the channel for a long time. I've worked with many collaboration tools. At one point, was a co-authored a book on Skype for Business with Robert Crane out of out of Australia. So I'm a Microsoft guy at heart. I started out that way. So what would make me pivot? Craig and his vision kind of helped me pivot a little bit. So Craig, a little bit about where Marquee was born and what got us to where we are today.
Yeah, Greg, I mean, really to touch or follow up on your SMB point and often overlooked markets, that's really where Marquee started. Myself and the co-founders here, we originally were working at an agency, at a full service agency, really creative based, some data-driven marketing. When the pandemic hit, we were in the process of spinning up a cloud-based digital signage company. We had laid the foundation of code and we'd built our own framework, and we said, hey, it looks like there's going to be a lot of folks who are interested in branding things other than cloud signage or through digital signage. And we went to our customer base and we said, hey, we're thinking about building this cloud tool for signage, but is there actually a need here? And one of the things we saw over and over and over was this consistent conversation around a tool to meet with. I mean, Zoom was becoming popular at the time. Slack already had kind of made its name, and Teams is a given. They said, we want to put our logo on it. So we kind of built a events and communication platform around, a handful of customers' needs. And as they kind of, spread the word, we were really able to, run a product-led growth kind of format here and really incorporate those needs in. And again, consistently, it was, we'd like to put our logo on it. We'd like to put our brand colors on it. We'd like to park it at our domain. And, as Markee kind of grew, we became more and more aware of how few tools actually delivered on some of those very basic, desires of the customer. With Zoom, you can slap your logo in, but you still got to download Zoom. Difficult to white label or OEM. With Slack, it's not an option. With Teams, it's not an option. So, just initially being able to put a logo in was great, but then parking it at your domain was better. And over 2 years of iteration, we developed Marquee 3.0, which kind of backed out of the events arena because we felt that was a little too hands-on for us, and really gave us some time to focus and dial in our value props, which we're building a fully brandable collaboration tool. And I probably will be a broken record sometimes because I love the branding piece, but it's not just logo on top of another logo or powered by Zoom. It very much is a fully white labeled experience from the favicon, the logos, the name of the site, and the browser down to the domain. So that was where we ended up after 2 years of listening to our customers.
Well, I think that's actually pretty important to say that Marquee 3.0 is really it's echoing what the customers were asking for, not what we thought management wanted to see, that the market wanted to see, but we actually listened and pivoted quite significantly to get to the point where the product looks, there's no secret. There are dozens there are hundreds of options when it comes to collaboration tools. But when we wanted to try and find something where there was a gap, truly there was a gap when people were starting to use more and more Slack, and HipChat was an older one. These are tools that were offered. They started out as an alternative to email, right, to get people out of their inbox, and they were much more collaborative, and it's instantaneous where you were getting answers from people. But as far as the channel goes, what excites me about this is the channel really doesn't have much in the way of options to take to their customers. Teams, of course, yes. It's a different user, really, it's a different target. We'll get into that in a little bit. Craig, you want to flip on over here to the next one? So, and I love this. This is really kind of comes from Craig, the management team that started out, the founders, and customer feedback. What really was making people look for an alternative? What was missing? And simplifying the experience. The fact that Marquee is 100% browser-based, you don't have to go through any downloads. And the quality that is a result of the latest, technology. You couldn't have done this effectively. I mean, I tried maybe 10 years ago. I tried it. The experience was not the same. Now technology has caught up with, I guess the bandwidth or the infrastructure has caught up with what technology can do, and now the experience is much more fluid. Ownership, privacy is, to me, it almost could be the very, very top tenant. There are customers or there are companies out there right now in other verticals that are saying their core customer offering is around privacy. You don't have to worry about it if you're searching the web. You don't have to worry about somebody looking at your data. That's your business. That's basically where Marquee is as well. We want to make sure our customers know that privacy is paramount. And the other thing we're going to touch on in a little bit here is Craig's. I'm not even going to talk about branding because Craig's hit that pretty much, and we're going to show you. So it's definitely important. But HIPAA compliance is another part. The video component of Marquee is HIPAA compliant. That opens up some doors for partners out in this space. Next slide there, Craig. Okay, I kind of alluded this already. We set out, know who your customer is. Yes, we do actually have some enterprise customers. Yes, we actually have a very large nonprofit. We focus though more mid-market. Think of 10 to 100 seats. The beauty of that is for you as a partner in the channel. Typically, my guess is that's going to be your sweet spot as well. Now, again, there are outliers. There are those that look that whale hunt and successfully. That's really not what we're targeting. Can we service them? Absolutely. We're looking more at that segment of market that is underserved. They can certainly go and use Zoom, and they're doing it right now, and they're doing it effectively. But we're going to give them an experience that's actually 100% branded. If brand is important to them, it's secure, it's HIPAA compliant. If compliance is important to them, it's private. If privacy is important to them. So those are the three things when you're looking at your customers and you're working with them day to day, just looking at what their needs are to assess them. Think of Marquee when you're looking for a very a light, simple, comprehensive communication platform. That's when Marquee should be coming to mind. And we're going to show you as far as the branding. I love that you can actually brand the URL, the domain. That is something I had not seen prior to this. So sweet spot. Okay, think about this. If you look at your base again, anything telehealth is now an option. If you've played with in that space and you really didn't have a collaboration tool because it wasn't HIPAA compliant, now with our video being compliant, you can. It's now an option. Nonprofits, Easter seals. Greg, you were a little bit about that one. Can you share a little bit about the history with Easter seals? I know they're one of our customers.
Yeah, I mean, Easter Seals had an interesting customer journey with us. They're one of our first customers at the beginning. I think one of the values that they have, or where they started really was just a little team of 2 or 3 folks using it internally, conducting meetings there. They did some conferences on the original version of Marquee. But over time, as we added kind of more secure features, more collaboration features, they really expanded into conducting therapy sessions as well as asynchronous conversations with their community. I think like one of the things that's key here, when I think about Marquee is the ability to not just have that branded conversation or that branded video chat, but to very quickly share the external asynchronous component or the Slack component, where you can have that video chat ongoing conversation, not just with the people you met with in the meeting, but you could build it out to really an infinite scale in terms of the amount of users you could bring into those chat rooms. So they've taken kind of advantage of the full range, and they've grown over time. And when we talk about our core demographics, typically we don't see Marquee being introduced as a solution to 300 people. We see it being introduced as a solution to 8.
So how are they using it so right now now that they're fully deployed, how are Easter seals and you think it could actually apply to other nonprofits and those that work either in healthcare or outside of healthcare? It really doesn't matter. But in a day-to-day basis, where are they finding Marquee is meeting a need that maybe whatever they were doing prior to that, be it I don't know, any other collaboration tool, and quite frankly, it could have been a conference call, right? We still, I don't know, there's still those things where people dial in the phone number and a PIN code. That's kind of where I got my start. So how are you seeing them leverage this technology to its fullest?
Yeah, I think it's two. And thank you for helping me catch my train of thought there. Two pieces are the brandability really allows them to distinguish themselves from other charities. Now, you might think of not-for-profits as not as competitive of a space, but in fact, it is more competitive, I think, than a lot of spaces when it comes to standing out, particularly in terms of fundraising and in terms of providing services. So for the Easter Seals, the HIPAA grade chat means that no matter what conversations that they're having, via audio or video, they're able to confirm that that's secure, but also really represent their organization in that fundraising aspect. And I think,
awesome.
From their perspective, teams, and the second point is, I believe they're on Teams or they have a hybrid kind of solution set up still. And I believe where Teams fall short for them is they are not able to roll that out beyond their internal organization. Typically when we talk about accessibility for their users outside of the org, like teams can be quite complicated. Bringing people into that internal environment has become incredibly complex for them when deploying that. So that's kind of the second gap they fill, is that Marquee ticks a box in terms of simplicity that other tools just can't fill because they're quite complex.
Yeah, I think, and as I mentioned earlier, I did kind of grow up in the Microsoft world, so I'm speaking from a position of some knowledge there, and I enjoyed the space. I mean, Microsoft does a beautiful job of interplay among technologies, but even when I was on board and teaching these technologies, it was kind of a common thought that any one of the solutions may or may not be best of breed. However, what Microsoft does beautifully is their distribution and the way they kind of layer their products and the interplay among the products. OneDrive, OneNote, and we're not here to talk about Microsoft, but they do a very good job of that. I think where Teams is kind of falling short, it's a little bit more complicated. It's a little more complex when you get in. I use it as well. I was on a call this morning with Teams. And it certainly gets the job done. I always say this, and I know you've heard me say this before, Craig. It's kind of like a junk drawer. When you're going and saving all of your content, trying to find something in your Teams environment that you talked about in a call or a document you shared, a month ago. It's just cumbersome. So the whole point of Marquee is to simplify the entire experience, make it browser based. And give people really one place to go. If they're used to using Zoom, they're going to be very comfortable with this. If they're used to using Slack, they're going to be very comfortable with this. But now they can do both in one place, in one interface that looks and feels like them, not like somebody else. What do we got next slide here, Craig? You know what? Let's do this. I think we're going to take this opportunity before I start pontificating any longer. Why don't we jump in? I think, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. Let's go ahead and do a real quick screen share. Show the folks here what Marquee looks like in action. And a little bit of this is around what the branding looks like, what that process is to actually brand. We're going to show here that it does not require an advanced degree. It does not require a certificate, a Java certificate of competency to be able to actually do this branding.
Yeah, so that's a good point, Greg. I mean, one of the wow demo moments for us is when we can come in here and just in a conversation, start to brand Marquee and do it in such a way that it's simple. So you'll see here, I just dragged in the Channel Vision logo. I want to go ahead and change the name of the site to Channel Vision. I want to go ahead and, I'm not sure what their font is. We'll change it to Times New Roman. We'll pick a brand color. They're hosting us, and hopefully you guys aren't too offended by red here. But when I hit save, what you'll see is immediately the fonts are changed, the logo's there up top. We've got Channel Vision as the name of the site. And we talk about changing the subdomain or the actual domain to really provide ownership. And it really is as simple as coming in here. And right now we're at demos. I can change that to channel vision at mymarquee.app. I can go ahead and hit continue, and that's going to go ahead and immediately brand that. So again, no advanced degree. So now we're at channelvision.mymarquee.app. We've got their logo in, their colors, their branding. We can really simply come in here and apply themes. And if we wanted to add a custom domain, you'd run through that same process. As you can see here, as I'm talking, it takes us 2 minutes really to brand it out. And we think that, as we add more and more feature sets to allow more and more customization, typically you're not going to see that in tools like this. So I'd love to hop back over here. It looks like we got a question coming in, Greg. Do we want to hold on, or do we want to take go ahead and
let's take it.
Security? So
absolutely.
We got a question here. It says, could you expand on the security that is available? What sets Marquee apart from the bigger guys? So 2 things. Security can be broken into 2 pieces from my perspective. One is like our core security. So everything's end-to-end encrypted. Files are end-to-end encrypted. When we talk about the bigger guys, It depends who specifically, but when you look at something like Microsoft, typically it's not all end-to-end encrypted file or 256 AES, which is what we like to our standard. But then there's the other side of, but Slack on the other hand does, WhatsApp programs like that do provide end-to-end encryption. So we try to make our video, our files, and our text chats as encrypted and secure as possible. But then the other side of security is, well, what data are we actually collecting? So I think even, to take the focus away from the security measures we put into place, we don't track anything. And that's kind of been in our ethos since the beginning. We look at companies like DuckDuckGo compared to Google, and we say, hey, we want to be DuckDuckGo. We want to say, we're willing to trade some of the backdoor data revenue opportunities, some of the opportunities to track and resell that data, or to target marketing, and we kind of eliminate that from our products. So we don't do any cookie tracking, we don't do any data tracking, we don't do heat maps. We kind of say, when an end user signs up for Marquee, so your customers, they're going to read that terms of service and their jaw might drop, because we pretty much say, hey, you own everything. And not only do you own everything, as part of our security measures, when you leave, we allow any customer to basically write us a note, and we will happily destroy data to the level that they find acceptable. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and I know it, like Slack is another one that actually does have an enhanced feature, an enhanced offering, I guess. But that offers HIPAA compliance. The problem with it is it's limited to, at least at the time, I don't know if it's changed, to 250 or more users. They actually have a significant investment into the product. Whereas again, we're trying to take this downstream, down market, to have the smaller office be able to take advantage of some of this privacy and security. Good. Well, I love that video. I love the demo just because it shows in real time how easy it is to change it. So by the time we were done there, that to me looked like that was a channel vision communication tool. That was no longer a Marquee communication tool. Same level applies to our partners, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and then to their customers. So that's one of the key tenets of what we're all about. So I'm going to go on my diatribe here. I'm going to keep going. So as far as when to think of us, what is different? I said earlier when we started, it's important to me when I go to the channel, I go to people that I know and trust, and vice versa. I don't want to bring them something that's like, it's kind of cool. I want to bring something that truly is different, not another me too. And what makes this one stand out to me is the fact that you saw this, it's completely brandable. That to me, for a smaller shop, think of professional services, doctors, lawyers, therapists, coaches, perfect fit for them. I'm not saying we have to target just them, but it's a perfect fit for them because brand is everything. Brand is what they live for. We now give them the ability to get to that at, with really no investment, right? That doesn't cost them extra for that, for the branding. We've unwalled that. We've made branding available on our free version, which we will talk about in a little bit here. Again, HIPAA. If HIPAA comes up as far as the need for compliance, you now have an option to offer them without significant investment and having to be enterprise size deployment. If customers are if they're saying to you, yes, we collaborate, we're using Slack, we're using Zoom, and they all are right now. They're using Dropbox or Box.net, whatever the tech stack that they've deployed. This is going to allow them, if they're looking for a way to consolidate, to simplify their technology, this will give them that. And again, it doesn't require advanced skills to actually deploy this. However, you do have access to a team that will help. You're never on your own with something like this. We'll address that shortly as well. Craig touched on it, but I think it's actually super important. there are, if you talk to somebody with Teams, you'll say, oh, it's great internally. The problem is if I have to go to invite somebody from outside, and I've lived it, I know it, I felt a little bit of that pain. Whereas since this is browser-based, you don't have that issue. You pull people into, you create meetings, you pull them into your session, in your channel, inside your organization, outside your organization, that wall disappears. Of course, you have control over it, right? There's an administrative right, so it disappears if you want it to. You don't have to. That's entirely up to your control.
I love to touch on this, Greg. I always do, because it's one of the things I was excited about as we developed the product. We changed the structure in which you would share these kinds of spaces. If you think typically there's lots of invites, there's signups to the third-party platform. What we've done is we've actually implemented more of like a document style sharing of the room, which makes it a little bit more familiar to those, particularly those customers spread across all of those platforms with like Google Docs, Slides, Notion, Airtable. It's click a share button, put the name in there very clearly on a list, see who the room shared with. So that was actually, I believe I can say this still, we are one of the only communication tools, if not the only one, who's implemented a document style sharing for ease of use. It makes, sharing 2 clicks is nice, and then no signups is better.
No, I love it. I mean, the fact is, it's collaboration simplified, which that's kind of the tagline. And that's what it comes down to, because people, your customers have choices. And the thing is, you're not going to come across anybody that has not used any of these tools. You're not, unless they've been under a rock, there's no chance of that happening. So you have to show them why this is different, how they can benefit. They can benefit from a tool that's going to be easy for them to use from any device. You get it from, from your desktop, from your phone, we even talk, from mobile. Everything that you would expect, the table stakes are all there. The recording, ease of access, high quality, HD video, all of those things that in the past might have been a luxury have become table stakes, and Marquee hits those. In addition to those, we're offering the branding, and then the compliance, and then honestly, I think one of the big ones that we have talked about, but I think we can't emphasize enough, is the privacy. Right now, it's because it's been greatly, what's the word? The public has been abused from a privacy standpoint. It's painful. So that is one of the key tenets of what we're doing, and I think it's going to be, I know it's a differentiator, and I think your customers will definitely benefit from that. Here's what we're not. Okay, I think it's just as important to sit here and beat the drum and say, hey, we're great at this, we're great at that. Here's what we're not. We're not a PBX, right? So if that's what the customer's looking for, they're looking for the full-blown unified communications platform. That is not what we are. We're much more around the collaboration piece, handling the asynchronous chat, where you have that string of chats that you can get back to. And then if you want to kick off in a room, you want to kick off a live session, that's what we are. Live video or audio, just the phone, the dial tone, not dial tone, but the phone part, the audio part, sorry. Then that's fine. We're actually handle that without issue, but we're not a full-blown PBX. Integration. So I mentioned, Microsoft's secret weapon is truly the way that all of the tools interplay. I mean, it's because of that 365 is the fastest growing commercial product in Microsoft history. I'm sure Microsoft 365 has probably surpassed that one, Office 365. The reason being is, again, it may not be each of those solutions is best of breed, but the fact that they play together so well really lends itself to widespread distribution, and it makes them very, very sticky. So we are not that, right? This is a different type of service specifically to address collaboration needs, real time and asynchronous. You know what? If they don't care about the branding, I get it. I mean, I love it personally, and I think many of your customers, when you show them something like this, you'll see people's eyes light up. So that's something that is worth mentioning. You have that, along with the ease of use, And by the way, we've got a freebie offer in here for them. They can actually get in. People are used to freemium, right? So it would be silly for us to say, no, you start paying right out of the gate. We're going to give people the opportunity to test it out, see if this fits their business and can augment help them meet their goals. So they can actually get in, use full featured, use the product as intended. If they like it, then they'll get to a point where we have certain walls set up, and we can get into that later, but they will be able to get in, use the product, use the video, use the chat, and see if it helps them accomplish their goals, all without a credit card. Let me show you how to get to us. Okay, so Bruce did at the very beginning of this said, hey, if you stick around to the end, and we may have a couple of questions here as well, we're happy to take. But if you stuck around at the end, there was going to be an offer. Here's what we are wanting to do for our partners. Look, I'm a channel guy. I have always been channel focused, channel forward, so not a direct sales guy. So what I want to do is arm our partners for success. And to do that, I think by giving you access to these tools so you can see it, feel it, touch it, you'll see exactly how sticky it can be, and you'll start to see use cases. So for us, it's a very selfless thing for us to do, to pay for these accounts and offer them. And also, if you're listening to the recording on this one, and you go out, you're eligible as well, because coming through Channel Vision, we want to make this offer available. We will grab that; it will be tagged to Channel Vision, and you'll be reached by a team member. You'll actually get a free account that'll actually set it up real time. But what we want to do is help you customize that, and really, quite frankly, I'd love to chat with you and talk about what your goals are. If you have any use cases that you're thinking of or any customers, love to help you with this. You're not on your own positioning this, and see if whatever we can do to help you, we're certainly willing to do that. You can go to our website, marquee.io/partners, real general information. You get even better information if you email me or call me. That's my cell phone. Absolutely. Craig said, are you sure you want to put that out there? I'm absolutely happy to put that out there. So if I can be of help, let me know. This product is truly, in my mind, a collaboration. I don't want to call it a game changer. That sounds a bit much, but it's truly a unique way to go to market. And I think it's going to give you a tool in your toolbox that you have not had previously. And you can have an alternative to Slack. Slack doesn't have a partner offering. So now you'll have something to be able to offer them. And it's quite a sticky product. And guess what else? If they get 5 people that sign up, what ultimately happens, they get 10, 15, 20. So it's one of those accounts or types of accounts that grows with time, because it is so sticky and kind of, borderline viral. Bruce, what else?
Yeah, okay, let's get to some questions then. First, Craig, you mentioned that, when you were giving an example, you mentioned a small number of people, I think you said 8 connected, and then expand out from there. Curious, is there a limit of connections or to the expansion, and what determines those limits?
Oh, it's a good question. So in terms of the limits of connections, no, there's not. In our freemium version, we have a hard limit, but beyond that, there are no limits to the amount of asynchronous conversations that you could have, and technically it's up to what the browser could handle. We're a little leery of saying unlimited video call connections, but we can do up to 40, I think, comfortably would be a good point. Is that the question, Greg?
Yes. Great. And Greg, you were discussing a little bit about how the partners can take this and run, and how they can market the solution to their customers. But can you discuss a little more about what's in it for the Marquee partner?
Oh, absolutely. Commission. Yeah, it's a pretty healthy. I know what partners want. We have an evergreen commission structure in place, where basically for the life of that relationship, the partner is compensated. We have a very, very straightforward straightforward. Again, I've been doing this long enough where I've seen 50-page agreements. It's just insane. We keep it extremely simple. Basically, bring us the opportunities, bring us the deals. And when they come in, we tag them to you. And as I mentioned, as they grow, as accounts increase, that's all attributed, to you who brought on the original deal. It could be that one deal that you've brought in, that one user from a customer. We track all of that, and we pay out monthly commissions. And there's some structuring in it, but you're going to be in the ballpark of where everybody else is, in that 20% range. And again, evergreen for the life of the customer. So that's why you do it. You don't do it. I know why people. Bruce, I appreciate your asking that, because we know we're not doing this for charity, though it does make us feel pretty good when we give a customer a tool that they can really benefit from.
Absolutely. Great. Now, when you were first looking at this market, what were the gaps that you saw to address the market the way you have?
Craig, you want to take that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I touched on it. I'm, very genuinely, we worked with a lot of creative departments from companies who could not find a singular tool. And I don't know if you remember, Zoom actually introduced the logo piece more recently than not. That they just couldn't find a tool to put their name or their colors on. So, a lot of times, when I talk about starting Marquee, I bumped into Greg later on. I said, hey, we should definitely make a channel play. But as I was selling direct, what I failed to kind of realize at the time is I was working with agencies who were reselling Marquee to their clients, very much a traditional referral channel structure. And they found it incredibly useful to be able to put the name of their customer in there and have those calls. And I think that was the gap that we started filling. And then I think, as Greg keeps pointing out, and I think it's relatively a focused area of our of concern for us is the privacy piece. The last 6 to 8 months, we've really dialed in and said, look, we're going to collect a name and we're going to collect an email, and that's all we need to identify. It's all we need for you to have an account, and we've really backed off of that. And we find with the popularity of DuckDuckGo, all of the big tech companies being in front of Congress daily now and lobbying against it, that's resonated big time with customers, particularly small tech firms and small software companies that are in that space as well.
Okay. Now you've throughout the presentation you talked about HIPAA. I'm wondering if you can kind of explain a little more about what is the significance of Marquee being HIPAA compliant.
So Marquee's video chat specifically is the HIPAA compliant piece. I always like to make that distinction for my lawyer and just for my peace of mind. The significance is for us is that it's out of the gate, it's out of the box, right? With Zoom, you have to sign up to an enterprise account to get the HIPAA certification. With Teams, it can be a little confusing as to whether or not you've signed, if you haven't signed your partner agreement. We offer that, through our partner, through our HIPAA guaranteed agreement. And once you sign up, you're agreeing or accepting our partner agreement. So that's kind of like a neat little piece. And then I think the significance of HIPAA grade video chats moving forward is clear. That end-to-end encrypted video, and the fact that the data is destroyed on the back end if you didn't record it is just going to be so critical. It avoids things like Zoom bombing. It avoids things like leaks. Your breach insurance can be significantly lower if you're like a health provider, because you can come to them and say, hey, look, this tool doesn't fix or meet all of the standards, because there's some onus on the telehealth providers themselves, but it sure helps them tick that box. And I think, I think we all like to say the customer is the one who really values that, but we know it's the provider that really, really values that, particularly from the insurance and liability side. So that's why we think HIPAA is just a no-brainer moving forward and should be out of the box, any plan for your not.
Okay. Now, we've talked about the partners, customers but if you were going to describe the ideal customer for Marquee, how would you do that?
You know, I would say when you're going about and meeting with your customers, when a partner is meeting with their customers or talking to a new customer, if it's somebody that is, think of that SMB space, think of them, maybe they have up to 100 employees. And they are, look, they're all collaborating in some fashion, internally as well as externally. Start just digging in, find out what it is that they're doing today. Chances are they're probably using email, they're probably using, Zoom, or it could be WebEx. We haven't even mentioned WebEx. Boy, there's talk about a blast from the past. That's still viable. It's still out there and commercially available. Don't know that it's necessarily morphed with the way the rest are evolved, the way some of the others have. But find out what they're doing today, and if there's any kind of collaboration going on, that's when you should really think about us. But the fact that privacy, honestly, may not be the linchpin for the smaller shop. We've seen privacy is absolutely top of mind with the enterprise. When we're talking enterprise, that almost, comes up as one of the first things they're talking about. The larger enterprise is more excited and focused on privacy than they are on branding. Whereas you look at the smaller shop, they're more focused on the branding. They want to get their name out there. They want to grow. They want to create a viral kind of strategy. Why not have their own branded collaboration tool? They just happen to also benefit from the privacy as well. But think of that SMB space that's collaborating internally and externally, and maybe they just have a bunch of disjointed tech that they're trying to just simplify their lives with, and they can do that with one single collaboration account.
Well, and to kind of dial in, Greg, if I wanted to be very pointed, a great example would be, let's take like a agency, like a full service agency, right? They're doing lots of out calls. They're doing their outbound sales calls. They meet on Zoom. They say, hey, we've had a good conversation here, and they want to maintain or centralize that relationship from one link, right? That first call that they have is in this branded space that looks just like their customer's brand, right? And or their brand, right? And they walk them in and they say, hey, that link that we met with our first meeting, our entire relationship from beginning of customer cycle to end of customer cycle can exist here in this one space. I think it takes a lot of stress or a lot of, pain out of that. So our ideal customer, is that, I would say 10 to 25 person, company that really wants to manage their external relationships in the same place with as little friction as possible. Because, often in that world, you're introducing new tools to your customers as much as you are your team. And I think a lot of that friction isn't really taken into account, in the sales cycle, right? That you're going to have to introduce a new tool as they convert over. So I think the Marquee shines there.
Okay.
So you can tell I'm in sales because I pushed that upper limit to 100 where Craig just did 25, but you get the point.
Yeah, is there an ideal size? I think, no, not for us, but we know who it plays well with, and it is between that 10 and 100, and we know it's a broad range, but it's a good range for us.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Greg, you also mentioned the word freemium at one point. So I'm curious if you want to explain, this is our last question, but can you tell us how the freemium option works?
Sure. So what we wanted to do is basically remove any barriers to entry for a customer, to them to try this out and see if this is something that meets their needs. And quite frankly, the precedent has been set by the likes of Slack and Zoom, where there is the free version where you start to get used to it. And then quite frankly, you get to a point, hopefully, the provider, whichever the provider is, hopefully gets the user to the point where they can't live without that tool. And then they're willing to increase the buy a premium account to get the enhanced functionality or storage capacity. So what we're doing is we're getting people access to the tool. What we've decided to do, and this is a shift, it's a relatively recent shift, where we've unwalled the branding. Historically, we took that off the plate. If you wanted the free version of Marquee free, you would actually have to have our brand. But it's almost, that kind of flies in the face of what we're all about. We're all about giving our customers the ability to brand something, make it look and feel like them. Yet we were kind of teasing them with it, and that really wasn't the intent. So as a result, we've decided to unwall that, give them access to the branding. There are some limitations as far as the meeting size, where we're limiting it to, is it 45 minutes, Craig, I believe?
Yeah, something like that, 45 minutes, 8 users.
So 8, right. So if they want to have a larger call, it's the initial is 8 users, 45 minutes. Honestly, we didn't make this concept up. This is similar to what other successful providers in the space do. We didn't want to recreate the wheel there. We just wanted to improve upon it.
And it also gives our channel partners a tool to push the sell. I mean, there's no sense of urgency if there's not some metrics and there are some kind of trigger points. And typically I don't think we talk about sales in that blunt of terms, but we think that it puts some onus on the customers to convert, so that channel partners don't end up with sales in our pipeline for months and months and months, that they're just going to create some sense of urgency that doesn't limit the core functionality of the product.
Well, and we feel that the partner channel, the partner approach is particularly appropriate here because, again, very low barrier to entry. They can easily offer this to their customers, have them start to kick it around. They can communicate. They can start collaborating. Since the partner has an account, they'll be able to communicate with their customer and start easing into it. It's that crawl, walk, run mentality. It's not like you have to go full blown right out of the gate. And we're eating our own dog food every day. I use many different types of platforms. I am in Marquee more than any of the others. And that's a function of certainly my professional focus, but it's also ease of use. I mean, it's just super simple to use. So we want to offer the same ability to our partners.
Okay. I think that's going to do it for this webinar. Our thanks to Markee's CEO, Craig Doig, and Senior Vice President of Strategic Alliances, Greg Plum. But before we go, I just want to remind you that by attending this webinar, you automatically are enrolled in the Channel Vision Webinar Rewards program, and you may have won one of our monthly drawings. For information on the program and to see what kinds of prizes you may win, visit our website, channelvisionmag.com/webinar rewards. And remember that you can access this webinar and all other Channel Vision presentations on demand by visiting our website at channelvisionmag.com. And now, from all of us at Channel Vision Magazine and from our friends at Marquee, thanks for attending. Have yourselves a safe and prosperous day.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Bruce.